Life Check Yourself with Jonathan Aslay, unlocking the secrets of modern relationship.
Ladies, it's a banner day in this country because we're here with a dating and relationship genius, and it is the day, and we must mark this day, that Travis Kelce has proposed to Taylor Swift. So I think whenever you're listening to this, just know that it was the day that it happened. And I was like thinking, oh, and we're talking to Jonathan. That'll be really cool because I do want to talk about that also. So my guest today is a very dear friend. I don't say old friend anymore because that would imply that we are old. So I'm going to say dear friend. When we were dating in relationship, like teenagers, basically in our coaching career, we met and lived in LA together. And Jonathan has just really evolved into one of America's leading midlife self-love life coaches. And he really has expanded into a deeper essential philosophy of what it truly means to love. And I think that what is really special about Jonathan is not only is he an expert and he has taken the courses, got all the certifications, but he's been out there doing it. And I think that's a really important thing, right? Like, because I remember I was literally on a call once and this lady said to me, like, you don't know anything. You haven't dated for 20 years. Like, you don't know how hard it is. And I was like, well, I guess in some respects that's true, but Jonathan actually has, and now is in a really great, healthy relationship. We're going to talk about that. And I'm just super happy to have you here. So if you want, everyone always says, do men do this work? They do. He's here. He's living it. And he's a great person as well as an expert. So welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. And, you know, it's kind of funny now that I am in a significant relationship and I look back because my argument against coaches that weren't was like, I'm in the trenches with you.
No, it's so true. So, okay. So today, as I said, I just have to do with like news and notes, as they say. So Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift got engaged. I decided to wear a baseball cap today because Travis Kelce always wears a baseball cap on his podcast. And so I think women can do it too. But have you watched the big interview on at all on the New Heights podcast between them at all?
Have I? No, I missed. I mean, I heard about it literally earlier today, all about it, but I haven't seen the interview.
Okay. Well, it's just really interesting because I think what I want to talk to you first about is the idea of the power dynamic.
Yeah.
Right. Because I know that for a lot of women that you and I work with, they're successful, they're ambitious, and they have this idea of, you know, this person that they want to be their partner, and they want this person to be powerful or equal value or at their same level. And then also that can create like a different power dynamic.
Yeah.
And then they end up often attracting men who they would say aren't at their level or want them for the, you know, a nurse and a purse and all of that. Yeah, so what, like, it's 2025. This couple are like two very powerful people, but I would be interested to know about how, as a look-see, and like, what does it really look like when you have two people of equal power in a relationship, and how do you manage that? What does it look like in real life?
Well, equal power is a lot different when there's a God, you see, I don't even like to say the frame of imbalance of power.
Yeah.
But certainly from a financial perspective, I know particularly women, like I was in a relationship with someone who had substantially more wealth than I was practically broke when I was in relationship with her. And I know I felt uncomfortable from that vantage point, but I also was a really broken, wounded person at that point in my life. So in a way, I wanted this person to rescue me, which isn't a healthy place to be. And certainly I can witness men who can also feel intimidated by a woman's success and not being acceptance of it, mainly because it's their own insecurity. And I just want to say to the women listening, your success doesn't intimidate. It doesn't shrink a man's penis per se. It's his own reflection of himself but you haven't done anything to make that happen, nor should you ever, what's the framework? Dumb yourself down
right.
for somebody in that regard. But I certainly recognize that to some degree, if, when we talk about power, I guess we're reflecting upon money or maybe prestige in some regard,
Yeah.
both those.
Or who likes who more?
Well, that certainly gets into messy territory when especially if you have an anxious person with an avoidant person, that can get really messy. But what's interesting is because I feel like I'm in the healthiest relationship of my life right now. And financially, she's actually worth a little bit more than me, not that much, but a little bit more. And we talk about not necessarily putting our money together or anything like that, but we talk about this shared experience, co-creating a relationship together. And I like that we have conversations. So when, for lack of a better word, two equal people show up, I believe you can have more co-creative conversations.
And what do you do in the practical? Because I also heard online that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift bought like a $9 million mansion. Maybe it was more than $9 million. Yeah. But in my brain, I'm like, who paid for that thing? Do you think they each put down 4.5? In reality, he's really successful, but she's probably more successful, right? And I know that when people come together in relationship, and because they're young, right? But they have an established career, established money, right? And so how do you coach women that you work with to approach just what you're talking about? You could say, let's co-create it. But what does that mean in real life? How do you bring up the conversation? What do you say? What should you expect?
Yeah. Well, I think the concept of co-creating is first just having conversations. In other words, talk about the uncomfortable things. Money ends up being one of the primary reasons for divorce. So, if we kind of reverse engineer it, let's maybe address these things before they become a behemoth later on down the road. The how, where the how comes from? Starting from the heart. Saying, you can literally start by saying, this feels uncomfortable to talk about this. Start from a place of vulnerability and start from a place of even feeling insecure about it. Because that diffuses it by starting from that place. That's the way I would approach it. And share how you feel about something and invite the other person to share how they feel about it. Instead of, this is what I want to do, come from a place of curiosity. I think sadly, I think it's funny. My girlfriend always starts every conversation with, so I'm curious.
Right.
Or, literally. that's going to be on her epitaph if I'm in charge of her doing that.
I think that. So I think also there's an energy of, I heard someone describe it once as shoulder to shoulder, conversation versus you and I are opposing each other.
Yeah. Right.
We're, it's mine and yours, and I'm trying to work this out. So what can you tell yourself? Because I think people don't feel safe, right? Because they've gone through these experiences where someone took advantage of their money, or they lost their money, or they don't feel like they have enough money, or whatever it is. How do you get into that safe space where your self-love is so grounded that you can be curious? Because curiosity only comes from safety.
Yeah, we could spend an entire 5 hours just unpacking that one thing.
Yeah.
Because really, we're talking about first operating from a place of your individual sovereignty, your own space of love. But I think the question is more about, have we built trust with one another? Have we really built trust? And, a lot of times people think of trust in the area of fidelity, but I like to think of, and which is important, by the way.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think of trust is, does this person I'm with have my best interest at heart? Are my best interest their best interest? That to me is one of the foundational pieces of trust. And so if you're feeling uncomfortable, it's probably quite possible that you haven't built enough trust with one another. And I think trust starts from a place of, it's chapter 1 in my book called What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway, is speak your truth, just do it from a kind place. And I'm going to be, this is going to sound a little, not disrespectful, but I don't mean to sound condescending. I've noticed a lot of women wear duct tape over their mouth. In other words,
Right,
they're fearful of speaking their truth.
Yeah, 100.
But I want everyone to know is that, and if you do it from a sincere, kind place, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person.
Amen. That's a hashtag, by the way. Underline that.
By the way, chapter 9 of my book is that title.
Okay, yes. And we're going to have a link in the show notes of where to get your book. And you want to follow Jonathan on his YouTube show that he does. You do it weekly, right?
I mean, I do 3 or 4 a week.
Oh my God, you're amazing. That's amazing. So let's talk about this. So you said we could unpack that, for days, right? About how do we establish trust? I heard once, actually I had a guest who talked about trust in relationship is about, does this person have my back? Which you just kind of said. Do their words and actions match?
Yeah.
Do they, are they working and growing towards resolving any challenges that come up in a consistent way?
Yeah.
What else would you add to how do you actually look at your relationship objectively and say, do we have trust? Because I think people just make it be about infidelity and then they don't, they're looking at someone's phone,
Well, I think of the idea of know thyself. Do you know yourself? And one of the fundamentals I think of know thyself is self-awareness. And a lot of people hear enlightenment, self-awareness. And the way I look at self-awareness is, your fears, your insecurities, your negative patterns, your limiting beliefs, your judgments towards others, and how your actions affect other human beings from an objective point of view. Well, a lot of people don't actually give much thought to just what I just shared, particularly in the area of your fears and insecurities. And I think knowing thyself in romantic relationship requires knowing your attachment style. And I believe most people fill out those forms and do those online quizzes from a delusional point of view. Please forgive me if I've insulted anyone, but they all think they're secure when chances are there's an anxious or an avoidant in there as your default. So when you know yourself well enough and not look at people say you have to love yourself till you love another. That's crap. Because loving yourself is an ongoing thing. It's loving, not love, singular. So it's a work in progress. So are you working on yourself? And you and I are junkies for this. We're constantly working on ourselves. And ideally, I think people would better be served with partners that want to help you grow as an individual. And you're doing it for each other. I think in Jay Shetty's book, The 8 Rules of Love, he talks about your partner being your guru, and in other words, they're your teacher in life to help you grow, sometimes unbeknownst to them. I think that's really great. I think this is interesting. When I was watching that interview between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, they're really cute. They're dynamic. And Taylor Swift said that Travis Kelce is like a human exclamation point and a vibe booster, right? Like to her life, right? Like he's bringing this energy into that relationship. So if someone's listening, right? And they're so focused on the guy needs to have this or the person needs to have that. I want to flip the switch. Like if you were to say, what are the qualities that make someone bring that kind of human exclamation point energy into a relationship? How are you being the person that you want to attract? What are the qualities that make someone add that to a relationship in a healthy way? Yeah. I think I'm going to share what my girlfriend says about me.
I love that.
Yeah. And it's interesting because she said in the first time in her life, she's experienced a man who seems grounded is one of the words she uses. She emphasize that I'm very present when we're together. So sometimes in my phone, kind of like finishing a word game before I really pay attention. But when we are really communing with one another, I am present. And the other thing she says repeatedly is she goes, and she even said this to me hours before we started recording. She said, "You are so appreciative." She goes, it's kind of a foundational piece of who you are, Jonathan. I'm in absolute gratitude and appreciation. It took me a lot of work to get to this place in my life. And
right.
I had to do that work before I met her to really, and after I lost a child, it really shifted my life in a way that said, look, I appreciate the good, the bad, the ugly, and I appreciate every breath, every interaction. And I believe if couples spent more time just in a state of appreciation for one another, and particularly being present and grounded, I think that can help. Just those three alone can make a big difference in your relationship.
So grounded, appreciative, and present.
Yeah.
I think that's it's really cute because one of the things that they were talking about was that their appreciation for each other and what they do and what they bring to the relationship. And that there's an amount of respect that comes when you have those three things.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you respect the person you're with, then there's a lot more chemistry.
Yeah.
Right. Which I think is a really, really important thing. And people are always saying like, oh, there's no chemistry. There's no chemistry. So I think if you feel like you're going out on dates or you're not feeling it, I would look at what Jonathan said. How are you showing up on dates? Are you being present? Are you grounded? Are you being appreciative? To me, that's like the literal opposite of what most people do when they're going on a date, which is what?
Well, they're focused on, this is the way I've observed it. They focus on attraction, entertainment, romance, and physical connection. And they're more hyper-focused on that than really getting to know this person. Like, could this person actually be my friend? Like, Are you really asking those juicy, delicious questions to get to know a person? Now here's the thing. I don't think we humans are good at actually getting to know another human being. Because a lot of conversations are performative, they're surface, that sort of thing. You and I swim in the Hoffman process. We don't go to the deep end of the pool. We go out in the ocean at the Mariana Trenches, and get into stuff. And when you can start sharing your fears, your insecurities, your negative patterns, your limiting beliefs with another human being, that's intimacy. And was it Esther Perel that coined it? Into me, see? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so. Into me, you see. Yeah.
Something like that. Like, that's what this is about. And that's how trust is built, through genuine vulnerability, through intimacy, through real curiosity about the other person.
And that's that friends first. And I think what's really cute about the Travis and Taylor love story is that they built this genuine friendship before it really kind of turned romantic. And this is also, I think, just because I want to make this really practical too. At the beginning of their romance, I don't know if you know this story, but I just learned it and I thought it was really cute. So he went to an Eras concert, Eras tour concert in Kansas City. And of course it was at Arrowhead Stadium and that's his home turf. And he knows all the people and the people who do security. And he went to the concert and he just thought she was amazing. And he was like, oh, I need to meet. I want to ask her out on a date. And I guess at these concerts, there's a whole friendship bracelet thing that happens. So he put his phone number on, like, with the beads and said, want to go out. And he wanted to go to her dressing room and give her the bracelet. So she's telling the story and she was like looking, she was like, it's not 1985. Like, it's so funny that you thought you were just going to come knock on my dressing room door. And he's like, yeah, but I know the lady in the yellow jacket who like stands outside of the locker, but then what happened was he talked about it on the podcast that he basically got turned down. She was like, you're not coming. I don't care if you're famous. I don't care who you are. And he got turned down. But he was really playful. He didn't take it personally. He was kind of joking around about it. Someone told her about the podcast. She listened. And then she said, and you gave me that bracelet. She said, it's like you listened to every love song I ever wrote and knew like I've just been waiting my whole life for a guy to make a grand gesture. So, right, which is so cute, but it's playful. So I think that when people are looking for, when somebody asks you out, maybe in real life, like maybe you're not sure if you're interested, or maybe you think the way they asked you out is not the right way. I think a lot of people turn down or miss out on great opportunities because someone just makes a judgment error or doesn't understand or doesn't know. Taylor Swift wasn't like, you did that, I would never talk to you. In real life, where are the mistakes you see women making that maybe that they're being too picky, too judgmental, too critical, rather than looking at it like, what would I do with a friend? How could I like look at this as I'm going to create a friendship first?
Well, so I love this question, and I spend a lot of time processing this, and I'll even share a personal story in this. So I've kind of observed, particularly since 65% of all people seem to meet through an online connection these days.
Yeah.
Most likely a stranger. I think one, putting so much emphasis with the word date instead of looking at it, look, I'm just meeting somebody. In fact,
yes,
I even said to my current relationship, I said, instead of us going out on a date, do you mind if we just meet each other as friends from that vantage point without the performative nature of what's expected on a traditional vantage point, that it's my job to pick the place and pay for it and all that stuff. And not that I'm trying to, escape a responsibility, because that is that traditional expectation. It was like, how can we connect as friends? And so I've always said the first time you meet somebody, let's call it a meeting. And the second time you meet them is a follow-up meeting to see if you like them. And then actually go on the date the third time. Now, to piggyback on what you said, though, in my relationship, our first meeting, we ended up having a 5-hour conversation. We were riffing off of each. By the way, we spent a lot of time debating what courtship was.
Right.
Okay. So, but we walked away feeling neutral about one another. In fact, we were like, we spoke 2 days later and she said, what do you think? And I'm like, I got to be honest with you, I wasn't feeling it. And she go, I wasn't feeling it either. So we were like shocked because we check off all these boxes, but we weren't feeling the spark, the chemistry.
Right.
And this is really important piece I'm going to share. So we spent the next 5 hours on the phone unpacking that. She is more curious and processing. She's like me on steroids. It's a lot of fun for me because I love somebody who's curious like that. And then over the next 10 days, we spent all this time talking to one another, getting to build a friendship with one another.
I love that.
And then we met up again, and then sparks ignited. And I realized later why we didn't have that chemistry at first. It's because my entire life, I have an anxious attachment style from the book Attached and all those other books, if you haven't studied it. And I usually choose avoidant women.
Okay.
A lot of times it's the other way around. Women are the anxious, men are avoidant. And because I wasn't experiencing something familiar from a vantage point of, or even like the vantage point of the imago, like that Harvell Hendricks, Helen Hunt talk about, I was feeling neutral because I wasn't feeling that anxiety I felt in the past that we sometimes call butterflies and
right.
chemistry.
That's a really important point, listener people, right? Because if you expect sparks and chemistry to feel a certain way and those have been unhealthy relationships, then if it's not there, it's a huge mistake to just disregard it and not explore further.
I had no idea what a secure meeting felt like because I've been, and it's like we had our judgments about one another. I mean, we were a little, by the way, we're in our 60s and we looked at each other. She's got wrinkles. I've got wrinkles. I was being a little judgmental. She was being a little judgmental. We owned it to each other later, which was uncomfortable to say that, we don't, because part of us, particularly us, those of us in our late 50s and 60s, we still have eyes of 20-year-olds.
That's so funny.
We have that vanity piece that we all want. We think we look like we're 20 and we think we deserve 20-year-olds. So I'm so grateful that we kept going and built a really cool, by the way, what happened in those 10 days before that meeting and the second time was we were able to talk to one another without the person, like not from a dating vantage point. We started to share things that we probably wouldn't have shared with each other if
Since
we
you were just being
dating.
friends.
Yeah.
I love that. And so like, and I think for me, when I'm coaching someone, like I want them to show up as themselves, right? Like from the jump, so that they're not feeling that performative.
Yeah.
Right. Because then because whatever you call it, it is a meeting. It is a first meeting. It's a meet and greet. It's a get to know you. It's a, who the hell are you? And so when you put these labels on it, like, oh, it's a date, oh, it's this, oh, it's that, and you get like, you need to have these set objectives of like, and at the end, I need to know yada, 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 right? And then that can limit you from actually creating the next, like you said, the next meet and greet to figure out like, are we really compatible? Because yeah, without that anxiousness, some people get confused and could really not follow through on something that could be super, super good from them. Okay. So, well, let me ask you one other question, because I want to make sure we talk about this, because this is huge. So you and you can talk about it in your relationship, but also generally, I think would be helpful too. So then what happens if you're the woman who's always in the friend zone, or you're so whatever that there's no sparks because you're either not in your feminine, or you kind of TMI it, or whatever it is, but you just keep getting caught in the friend zone. So how do we address that person? What does she do?
Well, I feel a little blank in the moment, but the first thing that comes to mind is what's wrong with being in the friend zone? And let me explain what I mean. My relationship, literally, we both started in the friend zone. And this is where, okay, I'm going to use the TV show Friends, Monica and Chandler.
Right.
Because they were friends. Right?
They were.
And what actually took it to the next level was the minute they had sex, all of a sudden, like, we're friends and we can have this.
Right.
I think, to some degree, I would say if you genuinely are friends with another person and they're friends with you and you're friends with them, and being in the friend zone means I'm never going to want to sleep with you, but I'm talking about genuinely building a friendship with someone and ignite it through that physical connection, because you've already built that trust, you built the rapport. Now, I recognize you're talking about a man who says, I'm putting you in the friend zone, but it really just means I'm not going to sleep with you.
Or a woman who's like, yeah, the guy's just like never interested in anything more.
Then you know what? Then X that person out in your life and spend time with somebody who wants to spend more time with you. And if you develop a friendship with it, then jump in bed and have sex. But you've already built the trust.
Do you think that people can have a pattern of just putting themselves in the friend zone?
Oh, I would venture to say a lot of people who have an avoidant attachment style or fear, or even an anxious person might do this as well. If you have a fear around love, you could sabotage yourself all day long in a variety of different ways. This is why you and I are big proponents of doing, personal development, self-help, spiritual work, therapy, all that good stuff, to work on your stuff so you don't sabotage your love life. And I think, and Marty, I say a big percentage of humans are walking around emotionally dysfunctional because haven't worked on themselves.
Yeah, I think that if you see any pattern in your dating life, you go like, oh, I'm the common denominator. It's not, because I'm sure you would agree. You can't. If you're blaming the apps, if you're blaming 2025, if you're blaming men, if you're blaming the town you live in, if you're blaming your wrinkles, if you're blaming how much money you have or don't have, like, so many people come to us with like a list of reasons why not. And I think the invitation is like, why not me? And then look at like, what are you doing to actually, shift that?
Yeah. I think when you're in blame and, it's very difficult to see because you're wearing some sort of not rose-colored glasses, but you're wearing a blindfold to looking in the mirror. And that's why coming to a coach like yourself or myself, you and I have a spectacular group of friends in this area. Our job is to point out your blind spots, but really grab you, put you in front of the mirror and look at your stuff, because most likely you are the contributor to where you're at. And once you've worked on yourself in a way to really stand in your sovereignty and your empowerment, I believe you become a magnetic attractor for what you want.
I love that. I love that. What do you say to someone who says it's too late for me?
I have clients that have met in their late 60s, the love of their life. And and have gotten married. And I have a number of clients in that over 65 category. You're not that late. That's why when I get a 40-year-old that says that to me, I just want to smack them upside the head.
Right.
I got 60-year-olds that wish they were 40 and could do it over again. Listen, and by the way, I have a client 75 years old and she has 5 boyfriends. Swear to God.
5 at once.
Way, she's been widowed twice, so she's like, I don't want. Like I think Dr. Pat Allen had a half a dozen boexboyfriends at one time.
How do you have boyfriends? Like legit boyfriends?
I'm just.
She's dating.
Yeah,
she's
just
dating.
Yeah,
there's plenty. It only takes one, so you don't need plenty.
I have a 75. I worked with a woman a few months ago, 75 years old. Her libido is so high. She goes, Jonathan, I got 68-year-old men that can't keep up with me, and like, she's like going, I got to go down to 50-year-olds. So, and she's 75 or 70.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah. So I think what I hear you saying is that's just a lie you're telling yourselves to keep yourself stuck.
Look at The Golden Bachelor. By the way, I'd be curious to see if you're going to watch that one.
Oh, yeah. Did they get rid of the guy that was controversial?
No, they kept the guy. I wish they would have X'd him out, but I think they were pot committed. So
that's so funny. I might watch it. I don't know. I watched the first one religiously, Golden Bachelor. Yeah. The second one after... I don't know. I just was like, I felt, well, this is actually, let me ask you this as we kind of head toward the finish line here. I felt when I was watching Joan that she was so guarded and that there's just like this wall up. She was pretty, she was fun, she was sweet. Even when she would kiss them, I felt like it was just like kissing like a cement wall or something. Yeah, there was no passion. And what I loved about it was like that. Did you sense the same thing? And then I'll make my comment.
Okay.
Did you sense the same thing about her?
Like she kept continually bringing up her husband who passed away. And because of that, like if I was coaching, like if I was coaching a guy, I'd say, run. She's still kind of stuck on. And when I say stuck, I mean, certainly there's love and care for even passed away. But I felt a resistance. I felt a wall. There was like a little bit of coldness from a physical standpoint. So yeah, I saw that.
And here's what I want to point out is that I'm sure if you asked Joan, maybe she would say, oh no, I'm here. I'm ready for it. There were moments, confessionals where she said, oh no, I'm really ready and all of that. And I think that what I want listeners to hear and why people like Jonathan, I do what we do is because you may not know that you're putting off this guarded vibe or a fear of being with someone else or a fear of, moving on from a husband who's passed away or a partner who's no longer there or afraid that you're going to get hurt like you did in your last 2 or 3 divorces. And And so if you're not making those connections, then there is something going on. So if you were going to coach Joan, what would you have said?
It's funny. I've communicated with her a number of times through Instagram, by the way.
Yeah.
I interview her for my channel. But this was before the show started. She and I communicated. Here's the thing. We all have residue from our past.
Right.
In other words, and by the way, I still have residue over every significant relationship in my life. And when I say residue, I mean there's still a heart connection I have. I always look at it from the vantage point. Does your desire, capacity, and vision for a relationship exceed your fears, your past hurts, and your fantasy around relationship? Because I think that in and of itself creates, so in other words, your desire, capacity, and vision has to exceed this. And I oftentimes see it the other way around. And just because you may desire it doesn't mean you're capable if fear, past hurts, or even your fantasy of a relationship, it doesn't make you capable of it. That's where I get to relationship readiness. With her, you're under a scrutiny of, millions of people and all that.
Yeah, for sure.
Not a fair laboratory it's certainly, for us that are curious, from reality dating and that sort of thing. But here's the other thing. You know what? If I was coaching, like, let's say the other way around, and I work with women. So if you're dating a widower, or relationship ended, I'm all about vetting the other person. So, I work more in teaching, discernment. That's my area of expertise, is like, look, you need to really vet this guy you're going to be choosing to even kiss somebody. I think you need to vet each other. And I would look at their past relationships, and you got to feel energy. You can, by the way, it was at one of your workshops, you used this analogy. Have you ever gone on a date and you could see everybody that's ever hurt them sitting behind them?
Oh, yeah.
You said this 15 years
they have
ago. And by the way, I remember that because I've been on dates and I could see every guy that's ever hurt them sitting right behind them.
Yeah, because you're dragging it around.
Yeah.
Yeah, no bueno. All right. Fine. Okay, so as we get ready for the end, whenever you're listening to this, it's almost to the end of the year. Why, this is in your experience, why is now the best time to start dating?
I think what makes this the best time, it's interesting because I see meme after reel of why dating is challenging in 2025 on Instagram and social media and such. But I think there's also a level of self-awareness. It's interesting. I've had so many clients tell me, the guy read the book, The 5 Love Languages. He read this book. Like, I think there's a level of awareness around relationships that didn't exist, say, 15, 20 years ago. And I just simply mean that there are more people aware that self-improvement or personal development, self-help, however you want to look at it, whatever terminology you use, is necessary to actually live a fulfilled life. Mm-hmm. And so I think 2025 is actually a great time. And believe me, it can feel like the Hunger Games out there. I get it. And going to Marnie, going to myself, our job is to put the odds in your favor. Okay. That's what we do. That movie.
I love that. I like the way you said that.
What we do is to help put the odds in your favor because it's kind of dysfunctional and messy out there. But I also think it's a great opportunity because here's the thing. Lead with vulnerability. It actually works. Believe me, it works, especially ladies listening to this. I want you to know, don't be afraid to speak your truth. Just do it in a kind way. Because guess what? There are guys that can go, wow, you're really connecting with me. And instead of expecting me to pick up the valet at the end of the day. And I mean, just simply in the context of the entertainment portion, lead with your heart. You have a greater chance for success.
I love that. Ladies, okay, so there's so many things, but in the show notes, we have a link to free dating vows product that Jonathan has for you. And I love this because it's really your vows to yourself, a simple, powerful tool, and you can get clarity, learn like how to set boundaries, really learn how to avoid ghosting, miscommunication, really speaking to that vulnerability and speaking up that Jonathan just mentioned, and how do you actually create a real connection. And when you look through this lens, 90% of men, Jonathan says, won't commit to this level of vows, but the ones who do are really serious. So this isn't about playing hard to get. It's really about empowering yourself and understanding how do you increase your odds, as Jonathan said, to create your relationship. So make sure it's jonathan.aslay.com/dating vows. The link is in the show notes. Also, I would love for you to check out Jonathan's YouTube podcast, Jonathan Aslay there, and social media, but definitely follow Jonathan. He's so great and so real and has such great advice. So I'm so honored that you are here and that you shared all your own vulnerability and your story and your strengths. It's so inspirational.
Well, thank you. And I love hanging with you. I've missed you over the years. I'm glad.
I know. I'll be in LA at some point back again.
Okay, good.
All right, ladies. Well, thanks for being here to celebrate the engagement of Travis and Taylor, to really hear from a modern day man about what it's like to be in a relationship and how to show up so that you can attract the relationship of your heart's desire, as Jonathan said, to really have a meaningful life, because that's what this show is about. So many pieces to rewind, listen to again, send to a friend. But remember, always and in all ways, it is your responsibility to life check yourself. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Listen, if you're feeling stuck, I want you to know you're not alone, and you don't have to settle for it. I've created a free quiz to help you pinpoint what's draining your energy and exactly how you can fix it. So head over to decodeyourdestinyquiz.com and take the 60-second quiz right now. That's decodeyourdestinyquiz.com. And if you're ready to dive deeper, you can book a free no-obligation consultation at marnibatista.com/private coaching. That's Marni, M-A-R-N-I, Batista, B-A-T-T-I-S, as in Sam, T-A.com/private coaching, all one word. Let's take the first step to creating a life you love on your terms. I'm Marni, and I'll see you next time.